Hey, welcome back, my friend. My name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earning Title Podcast. Today, I have my new friend, Adam Woolard, on. And Adam, when I'm having a guest on, I do a little bit internet sleuthing to try to figure out, ask questions. And so I'm going to see what I figured out about you. You let me know if I'm right or wrong. And then I do have a question. You live in Nashville, correct?
That's correct.
You're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you're a dog dad?
I'm a dog dad. We don't have our dog right now. He's actually with our Hannah side of the family in Alabama. But yes, dog dad. We're getting back soon. And yeah, I miss the little guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely dogs are awesome. You've run marathons and a pretty active guy?
Correct.
All right. So and the one thing, and we were just talking about this, is I Googled your name. And instead of, listing all that stuff, it said the husband of Hannah Brown. And I didn't know what's with that? Why didn't it just say all the other stuff? Why did it say husband of Hannah Brown?
Yeah, I get that a lot. She's a very well-known person in the reality TV world. She started on, The Bachelor, went to The Bachelorette. She was the Bachelorette. So there were, 30 some odd guys bowing for her attention and her love. So she was the Bachelorette. And then she went on to compete in a show called World's Toughest Test. So it's basically, 10 days of rigorous training that, Navy SEALs and Green Berets and all of those kinds of people go through. But she did it for 10 days and outlasted um, um, NBA players, NFL players, Olympic athletes. So she's very well known in the reality TV space, but she's also a best-selling author 2 years in a row. So just really impressive individual. So yeah, I get that a lot. It's like, you're married to Hannah Brown. It's like that's how I'm sometimes recognized, which I completely understand. She's amazing and she's done a lot in her life and she's been around for 30 years. So it's pretty impressive.
Well, that's awesome. And she found you, right? And that's probably her most
Yeah, we
impressive.
found each other in California. Yeah, we actually met on a dating app. She tried the reality TV dating world and then went to a dating app and found me.
Obviously, that's where all true love is found, on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, yeah, yeah.
So when I was looking, I did actually found it looked like she had a podcast for a little while, and I saw both of you on the podcast. And something she said actually stood out to me. I'd like to start here. She said, I think it was probably this time last year, you had just got engaged, and someone had asked her, "Are you excited about planning your wedding?" She's like, "No, we're planning our marriage," or something along those lines. And I think that's really important that you distinguish between it's not a wedding, it's a marriage. It's the entire, hopefully, right, the rest of your life. And what I found with guys specifically is we'll do something like I'm planning my retirement. You know, if I can get $2 million in the bank, I know I can take out 4%, and that's $80,000 a year, and I can live on that. But we never plan our like a retirement health, a retirement life, or actually truly like living. And I think part of that is because we don't have the numbers. Like I can't put a finite number like when I get $2 million or when my VO2 max gets to this. We don't see it like that. But you work for a company that is helping us see our numbers. Could you explain like how that works and why that's so important?
In terms of the work I do at Joi and Blokes, yes. I've found in my own experience that, throwing, supplements and all these different modalities at my body and hoping it sticks is not the best approach. When I was, entering my 30s, 31, 32, I started just not feeling great. I started to see, a lack of energy, lower libido, brain fog. I feel like I couldn't put on muscle as well, developed a little bit of belly fat. There were just things that I was noticing about myself that I hadn't noticed before. And it was really bugging me. And I didn't know why it was happening. And so I went to go get blood work done in California and they tested 10 biomarkers and all of them fell within their quote unquote standard range. And they basically sent me on my way and said I was fine, but I didn't feel fine. And I knew that my body was changing. I knew that I wasn't, I wasn't feeling the way I did in my mid 20s, late 20s, even. So I went on this journey of trying to figure it out. Like, what's going on with me? I don't feel good when I wake up. I feel like I'm dragging throughout the day. And some of it probably had to do with like, I was, commuting, 30 minutes, 45 minutes from work every day. And that was wearing on me. But what it came down to were like very specific deficiencies in my blood work. So I went to Blokes at the time and got my blood work done. It was like 100 some odd biomarkers that they checked, and I was very deficient in vitamin D. I was deficient in testosterone. My testosterone was under 300 nanograms per deciliter, which is considered diagnosably low or hypogonadism. And a lot of it came down to what I was eating, but also my exercise schedule. I was kind of obsessive with running at the time. So I would go in the mountains and run 7, 8 miles at a time. And I would do that, 5 or 6 days a week. So I wasn't doing the things that I needed to in order to get my testosterone up specifically. So I kind of flipped that on its head. I started lifting a little bit more. I got some vitamin D in me. I worked on B vitamins. I changed up my diet, and I kind of did a 180 in terms of my health just by like small incremental changes that was a result of getting my blood work done, but more extensive blood work and talking to someone who comes at it from more of a holistic perspective as compared to a conventional medicine perspective.
That's
So that's
awesome.
a roundabout way of um, explaining how I figured out what was going on with my health. And
Why do you think the medical community would, like I'll go to phys I got a physical in 2 months. Why are they gonna do 10 biomarkers? Why not, 50 or 100? I mean, there's so much data they can get. Why is it like that?
I think a lot of it is lack of information, lack of training, lack of energy. I mean, a lot of doctors, they see so many patients and they're just so overworked that they just, there's a specific way that we've done things and we're going to continue doing things and we're going to go by these standards. And it's hard to get people to stray from that because it takes a lot of energy to reinvent the wheel. I think also, not a lot of clinics have the capacity to check for more biomarkers than they are. A lot of that is just, this is the way we've always done it. So I think some of it comes from lack of information, lack of education, but also just the time that it requires to reinvent that process.
Yeah. So I got introduced to Joi and Blokes, and the way I did it was, the Spartan 300 challenge. I don't know if you familiar with that?
Yep.
I actually applied, and if you know Joe DeCina, he didn't pick me, so, tell him he messed up, but I didn't get picked. But I saw them, like, man, it's been a while, and actually, me and my wife did maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we went and got more extensive blood work done. I thought it was important, but I missed out on a key variable, which you guys have, is the consultation later. Because I did have these numbers, and, like, in my profession, I'm a paramedic and a fireman, so I kind of understand the medical world, but I don't know, like, as a paramedic, I don't care what your testosterone levels is. It's not something I deal with. So I didn't really know what to do with the information. So a guy, he signs up with Joi and Blokes, or it's separate, right? Joi is for girls, Blokes is for guys. And you can get blood work done. And then you have this consultation. What is that telling you? Is that a doctor? Is it a dietitian? Is it a coach like yourself? How does that work?
So it ranges. Most of them are nurses. We have NPs. We have just a kind of a wide background of nurses, meaning their backgrounds are different from each other's. But the majority of them are NPs, so they're nurse practitioners, and yeah, they're mostly trained in hormones. They whenever they come to us, they're very well versed in peptides and hormone replacement therapy. And yeah, the consultation typically lasts 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on the extent of your blood work. But they go by line and they give you recommendations based on each kind of category. So your lipids, your thyroid, your blood sugar, and they tell you why. So that's a really big part of it. It's like we're not just giving you these recommendations, we're giving you the recommendations and the why behind it so that you can make changes on your own. So the consultation is so important. You can have all these biomarkers and see that it falls within the range or without of the range. And if you don't know, the why behind or the how to really understand the biomarkers, then the biomarker itself is not going to give you a ton of information. You have to have somebody, a trained eye, to look at it and explain it for you. And that's kind of where our clinicians come in.
It seems like there's 3 levels inside of Blokes. What's the difference in, obviously money is a factor, but what is a guy hoping to get out of, like, doing the most advanced panel versus the basics? And what are the main things that guys are probably deficit at in general? Like you mentioned vitamin D, like I have on my Apple Watch, it will tell me how many minutes of daylight I've gotten. The other day it was like 3. It was it made me sad. So, where do you think guys are missing, and then what do they get on the different levels when they're signing up?
Yeah, so the majority of men specifically, we're kind of looking at the markers of metabolic syndrome. So high triglycerides, HDL, which is your cardioprotective lipoprotein, under a certain amount. We're looking at your fasting glucose. So those are three of the main ones that kind of hint at metabolic syndrome or the progression toward metabolic syndrome. So we're looking at, a full lipid panel. We'll look at your thyroid. We look at your hormones, obviously, and the ratio between those hormones. But the different labs, we have a complete hormone panel, which is still very extensive. It's, 57 biomarkers. We're looking at, specifically your hormones and how that relates to your blood sugar and how it relates to your liver and your kidneys. And then the next step up from that would be more of our metabolic panel, more related to your thyroid, your lipids. It has some inflammatory markers in there. And then your comprehensive lab, that's testing everything. I mean, we're looking at a whole gamut of blood markers and really getting a holistic view of your health. I would always say start with the advanced panel just because, if you have anything going on in terms of your thyroid or your cholesterol, we'll usually be able to pick it up there. But if you wanted to start with a comprehensive, that's a great baseline to understand where you're starting, and then we can kind of go from there. And the majority of the time we're going to catch things in the complete hormone panel, but there are things that are not in the complete hormone panel that we find in the other two. So it just depends on your goals. It depends on where you're starting. I mean, if you're not super healthy, you're not eating right, if you feel terrible, then you probably need a more extensive lab done.
Hey guys, this is Danny. I'm just breaking in real quick to let you know that after my talk with Adam, I was really inspired to go out and get my blood work done, and I did that. I signed up, really easy, and I enjoyed the process so much that I wanted to be able to offer it to you. So I signed up to be an advocate. All that means is I have a link at the end of the show. Click on it, get your blood work done, and it's an easy way for you to support this channel. Now back to the interview. Gotcha. I think having, getting those numbers, doing something, and then following up is really important. At work, we take tests for promotional. And for a long time, you took a test and you got a score. They didn't tell you how you didn't get to see the results. And then at one point, like, hey, come back. We're going to grade your test and you can see what you got wrong, which was important for us because some of the stuff is really important. Like, if I miss a question of, I don't know, and something that could kill me or my guys, I want to know that I messed that up, not just, hey, you failed. So I think that following up is pretty good. What do you guys recommend as far as how often should you be doing these types of blood work?
Yeah, so typically every 3 to 6 months. I get my blood work done every quarter. If you're on certain medications, sometimes it warrants a little bit sooner check ins, but any kind of hormone replacement therapy, if you're on thyroid replacement, we recommend every 3 months. But after you start on any kind of medication with us, we check in with you after the first 6 weeks just to make sure everything's trending in the right direction. Your numbers are coming up, make sure you're feeling okay, you're not having any symptoms. And then from there, the cadence is typically every 3 months.
And some of the things you're recommending are truly medicine, not supplements. What would be, let's say my A1C is up, maybe pre-diabetic, my testosterone is low. What would be like the hierarchy? Is it work out, do this, then if that is the neck will draw it in 3 months. If it's still low, then you're on this medicine. How would you, like work through the problems?
Yeah, so there is a severity of the issue. So if your A1C is in the diabetic range or the pre-diabetic range, then we're going to work a little bit more diligently to get that down. And sometimes that requires supplementation, sometimes it requires peptides, but the majority of our clinicians are very conservative in terms of how we're going to start. So we kind of inch our way into it. We're not going to just give you the full gamut right off the bat, typically, unless you really need it. If your diet is dialed in, if you're telling us you're eating all the right things and you're still having all these issues, then yes, we would typically be a little bit more aggressive in those instances. But if you come in and you say you're drinking 4 days a week and you're, eating poorly and you're not exercising, you need to get back into the swing of things, then we work on that first. So we're going to work on, a more conservative approach for you as compared to someone who is already dialed in, but still having all these issues.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Could you hit on peptides? That is something I don't know about, and I feel like in this world, there's two things. There's like the GLP-1s and peptides. I feel like are taking over the internet, and I see it advertised and talked a lot about. What are those? What is that?
Peptides are just small chain amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of our bodies that really do all the work. So, peptides help with metabolism, they help with tissue regeneration, they help with hormone secretion. Insulin, for example, is a peptide. So there are different peptides that work on different mechanisms in our body. Sermorelin, for example. Sermorelin is a peptide that can either be injected into the bloodstream or taken orally, and it's a growth hormone releasing peptide. So essentially when we sleep, we release growth hormone, and that helps with lean muscle mass. It helps boost our metabolic rate to burn more calories. It helps with our immune system. It can help improve our insulin sensitivity. So Sermorelin can really help with, building lean muscle while burning more fat. And we do that by taking a peptide. So there are different peptides for different purposes, but they're all meant to kind of mimic these small chain amino acids that are already naturally occurring in our bodies.
Does that fall under supplement or medication?
It's a good question. I think you would define it as a medication. I would have to look up the definition of medication, but it's compounded at our pharmacy, so I would assume that that would be considered a medication.
And where, I know this is probably a loaded question, but on the insurance side, where are these treatments falling into? Is it covered? Is it HSA, FSA type coverage, or could your insurance actually, you get a subscription, a prescription, and they pay for it? What have you seen?
So it depends on the medication or the peptide, but most insurances are not going to cover supplements and most peptides. I will say that GLP-1s are covered in a lot of instances, but there are different criteria that patients have to meet before being cleared for it. So, GLP-1 specifically, your BMI has to be a certain point. Your blood sugar, I believe, has to be at a certain point. So there are different things that different insurance companies require in order to approve you for them. But in terms of labs, some labs are covered on insurance companies. HSA and FSA, though, we accept payment of those. A lot of times it's just us sending itemized invoices and or letters of medical necessity that patients use to get reimbursed on the back end.
That's cool. So we obviously have the medication side or supplement side. Where are you on you mentioned you were running a lot and you switched to weightlifting. Do you think that's the stress response is lowering your testosterone? Explain that and maybe give me a rundown of non-supplemental, non-medication things. Is it contrast therapy, your diet? Like, what's the hierarchy of guys getting in shape? How would you put that?
Hierarchy, I think it's a lot of it is just the combination. Obviously, what you put in your body is going to affect your hormones. So, diet is really, really important. A lot of lean protein, healthy fats, veggies, some fruits, and then the majority of what diet consists of is really cutting out the things that are not serving us. So, excessive sugars, starchy carbohydrates, starchy carbs are okay in moderation, but the more that we eat them, the more our blood sugar spikes. And then our pancreas is going to pump out more insulin. And then that can lead to more insulin resistance, which affects our metabolic rate. It affects our just metabolism in general. So it makes it harder for us to lose weight. Diet's really important, but then exercise is almost equally as important. And doing those two things in tandem and being consistent with those is really going to help us lose weight. I've found that lifting 3 days a week and doing more heavy lifting 3 days a week has really helped my testosterone levels naturally. I'm not on hormone replacement therapy. I'm not on any kind of peptides to boost my testosterone. I'm naturally kind of sitting in the 650 range now, and that's all from diet and exercise related things. Those are really big, but also sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, chances are your hormones are a wreck. Chances are you are feeling really lethargic throughout the day. So sleep is a really big one as well. In my opinion, doing something meaningful and purposeful is very, very important, not only for our mental health, but our physical health. If you're stressed throughout the day because you're not doing something you want to do, that stress, that cortisol can really affect your hormones. So it's a combination of things, but diet and exercise, I think, is one of the two of the biggest things in terms of our weight and our health.
Where do you see community in your health? Because you do Brazilian, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Brazilian, that's a community, right? So you're doing hard things with people. Do you see that? How do you see the benefit of that? Because I think in today's day and age, guys are missing that, and it's a big miss. I'm very thankful. I work, each shift. There's 33 guys, and I work at a station with 3 other guys, and that's important. I feel more fulfilled. How do you think community for guys specifically plays in?
I'm so glad you brought this up. This is something that I'm really, really focusing on this year. I focused on it last year as well, but I saw the benefit of building community, and it is incredibly important. It's incredibly important for me and for my wife. And we've really made a point to develop this in our lives. But I'm a part of multiple different communities, and I'm doing that by design. Yes, jujitsu is a huge community. It's a very challenging martial art. You're kind of struggling together, and you see the benefits of it. You see people progress in the belt system and their technique and their skill, and that's really rewarding. But it's about being around people, being around like-minded people who are challenging themselves. So I'm in the jiu-jitsu community. I have a marriage group that my wife and I are leading within our church with another couple. There's about 12 couples in there, and our goal is to become more faith-led couples, and we do it based on a book called The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller. So that's another community that we're kind of creating. And then I'm a part of a leadership group called the Betterment Circle that one of my buddies started, and it's mostly real estate professionals, but I'm kind of the oddball out in there, and we are just aiming to level each other up. We meet once a quarter. We have bi-weekly calls. So Monday and Wednesday, we will chat for about 15 minutes. And it's all in the name of community. It's all in the name of just putting yourself in the right circles to help grow yourself and help grow other people around you. And the more that I'm needed throughout the day, the more that people are expecting me to show up for things throughout the day, the better I feel. And that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think it's really easy to be by yourself, and we're social creatures for sure. Uh, Adam, is there anything I didn't ask you? Anything? Is there any way guys can interact with Joy and Blokes?
So joyandblokes.com. I mean, we basically start if you're interested in getting blood work done, that's kind of the first step in the process. It's really important to get a baseline. That's kind of my mission right now, is just to stress the importance of regularly checking your blood work and then actually doing something about it. A lot of times we get this information and we don't have the right plan in place, but that's what our clinicians and our health coaches at Joy and Blokes help you with. We give you the information, but then we give you a plan. So I would recommend getting blood work to everybody. I mean, men and women alike. It's really important to understand what's going on under the hood of the car so you can feed it the right things. So you can reach out to me on my Instagram. You can reach out or just go on the website and schedule labs. But really, really important to do that, especially once you get into your late 20s, early 30s. That's when things start to change. At least they did for me.
Yeah, I concur. I'm 46. I'll be 46 in a couple months, and it's like, man, it's not harder. It's just not as easy. I don't know if that makes sense. Like you,
I think it requires more discipline the older you get. I mean, you can't kind of, take it easy on the weekend, and your body doesn't respond the way it used to. So yeah, we're trying to fight that every day.
that's awesome. And that's a good fight. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. I think, like you said, getting your numbers is important, but then doing something. And I think companies like yours, this podcast, the goal is to like get the information and then go do something, interact with people, make the world a better place. And I think the information you gave us today is going to help us do that. My name is Danny Dumas, and this has been the Earn Your Title podcast, and I will talk to you later.